Some comments from a WNBA player is really getting my juices going, not in a good way, in a bad way. I'm talking about Sue Bird. She's a WNBA All-Star. She played for UConn. She's a fantastic player. In fact, I just saw her in town recently.
She's done nothing but win her entire career.
So I just saw her in town before the pandemic, and let me be very clear on this before I give you my opinions on the WNBA. Let me just be very clear on something. If I had daughters, I would bring them, which I don't as far as I know. I would bring them to Aces games. Aces games are a lot of fun. They're a great family atmosphere. I love Bill Laimbeer. He's doing a great job. The franchise is doing a great job. The games are fun. I give the women on the court credit. They play very hard, and they're great athletes. I want to be very clear on that, okay? Very clear. With that being said, Sue Bird made some comments about why the WNBA isn't maybe as popular as some other female sports or even the NBA for that matter. I want you to have a listen to this. This is Sue Bird in her own words talking about the WNBA and maybe why the WNBA isn't as popular as some other sports. Have a listen to this.
To be completely blunt but also kind of simple, soccer players generally are, cute little white girls. And I think basketball players, we're all shapes and sizes. We have, like I said earlier, 70 to 80% black women, a lot of gay women. We're tall, we're big. And I think there's just maybe this intimidation factor with that. People are quick to talk about it, judge it, put it down. And soccer, you just don't see that just based on how they look.
Okay, so first of all, nobody is talking about women's soccer hardly ever, unless we're talking about what took place.
Yeah, never. And let's keep in mind that the reason they talk about the United States women's soccer team is because soccer is by far the most watched and most popular sport on the planet.
So nobody on national
and when they win, and then when they represent the United States and they win in the most popular, most watched sport on the planet, they're going to get the recognition.
Since the U.S. women's soccer team won, nobody's been talking about women's soccer. Nobody cares. No. Nobody's talking about it on national radio.
You don't see Rapinoe anymore.
Okay. Right. So with that said, Sue Bird did this interview on CNN, and she was asked if the WNBA needed to be marketed differently. Have a listen to this.
No, I think the problem is it's not the marketing per se. The problem is how society and how the outside world is willing to accept the cute girl next door, but not willing to accept or embrace or, I guess not judge these basketball players who are tall, black, gay.
Okay, so let me respond. Hold on. JD, let me respond. Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Let me respond here. First of all, as I said before, and I want to say it again, I enjoy the Las Vegas Aces. I'm glad we have a WNBA franchise. They do a great job. We love having Bill Laimbeer on. With that being said, let me give you some facts that Sue Bird will not tell you. Every single year since the WNBA was formed, it is a losing business. Why do they still exist? Because the NBA bankrolls them.
And Brian, it's not just a losing business. They lose a minimum of $10 million every year. They've been in business for 25 years. Name me one other business on the planet, not the post office, in the United States that has lost $10 million a year for 25 years and is still a business.
Let me elaborate.
There isn't one. The WNBA is extremely fortunate to be where they're at.
I agree. Let me elaborate on that a little bit and give you the reasons why, because you're not going to hear it from Sue Bird, because let me be very clear. The reason why the WNBA isn't as successful and players aren't making, big money, it has nothing to do with the fact whether they're gay or not. I promise you that. It has nothing to do with the color of their skin. Let me tell you what it has to do with, ladies and gentlemen. The product. You ask any college basketball coach or anybody that knows anything about basketball, they would tell you that Bishop Gorman or Findlay Prep would defeat the Las Vegas Aces in a game if they were playing by the men's rules. I guarantee you that. Now, listen, I don't want to.
Remember when we had a conversation? We were at Marvin Menzies' house for his.
Nobody cares.
But we sat down and we talked to him. And you said, "Hey, honest to God question: if Gorman played the best team in the WNBA,
he said they would kill.
Who would win? He said Gorman would win, and then he said by a lot.
Not that Marvin Menzies
verbatim.
Not that Marvin Menzies has any credibility, because he doesn't. But I appreciate the fact that he answered the question honestly. But with that being said, I'm sorry, folks. The Aces games are fun to watch. I'm not trying to bash on the Aces. I'm just being honest here. I'm always going to be honest on this show. The product is not very good. If it was, SportsCenter would have been leading with the playoffs, okay? If the product was good, they would have been able to sold out. They would have been able to sell out Mandalay Bay for the WNBA All-Star Game. There were tons of empty seats. And by the way, Mandalay Bay is not that big.
I think it's 10,000.
Okay? They couldn't even sell out for the All-Star Game. Listen, the games are fun. It's a great family atmosphere. It's fun. I remember I saw Kobe sitting there with his daughter and all the celebrities coming out, and it was great. But folks, let's be honest about this. Really good boys basketball teams in high school would beat some of these WNBA teams. It's not their fault.
And there's also not one WNBA player that could make an NBA roster.
There's a reason why when you watch tennis in the U.S. Open and back in the day when the Williams sisters were in their prime, even now, there's a reason why, not in a pandemic, you could get 15 or 20,000 people watching a tennis Grand Slam major with the women because the product is better. Why is it better? Because women don't serve the ball 140 miles an hour. The points are longer, and it's entertaining, okay? It's entertaining.
And in many of the cases, the women are attractive, like Anna Kournikova,
I don't care
for
about
example.
that.
But Anna Kournikova,
I don't care about the
is a prime example.
I
of that.
disagree with you. I don't think that attractiveness has anything to do with why people aren't watching the WNBA. And by the way, there's a lot of, I could say, attractive WNBA players.
Sure,
okay, Sue Bird, by the way, is one of them.
But there's five. There's five players. And the problem with what Sue Bird just did, and the reason CNN had her on is because they just won, the Seattle Storm won the championship, obviously. But she is calling the entire country racist and homophobic.
Well, it's just stupid.
And that's a really
something.
big issue.
So,
and CNN they made a mistake, in my opinion.
We're opening up
by trying to push this political narrative that
Yep.
that if you don't watch the WNBA because of the fact that it's comprised of 80% African American women and some of them or a large majority happen to be gay, then you're automatically a racist and a homophobe. And let's not forget that WNBA they pushed Black Lives Matter harder than the
See,
NBA
I don't want to get into
did.
that because I don't think that has anything to do with this.
And
that has nothing to do with this.
They walked off the court.
No, that has nothing to do with this,
The first game of the season. They just walked off the court during the national anthem. And that really pissed a lot of people off.
JD, that has nothing to do with this.
It has a lot to do with it, Brian. No, there's a reason why Game 7 of the NLCS had twice the viewers of Game 7 of Game 6 of the NBA Finals.
JD, here's why that has nothing to do with this. The WNBA has been losing for decades, okay?
I know, Brian.
Forget about
and despite that, they're still going out of their way to polarize the country when they don't even have a foundational base.
JD, this story has nothing to do with politics. I don't want to get into that. It has nothing to do with politics.
When she brings up the fact, when she calls the country racist and homophobic, she brings politics into the equation.
She didn't call the country racist and homophobic. She said the reason why WNBA is not as popular is because they have gay athletes, which I disagree with.
She said gay and black.
This has nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. It has nothing to do with politics right now. It has everything to do with the fact that Sue Bird is just wrong, and the WNBA has been a losing business for years and years since it started. Now, some buffoon went on social media. His name is Chris Kozat. I don't even know who this guy is. I think he covers the WNBA. And he puts up a picture of Sue Bird and LeBron James standing next to each other. Sue Bird, 17 seasons in the NBA. LeBron, 17 seasons. Both have 4 championships. Sue Bird's 2020 salary was $215,000 a year. LeBron, $37 million. Bonus for winning the finals. Sue Bird, $11,000. LeBron James, $370,000. Okay, so some idiots are going to look at that and say, oh my God, that is so unfair. Folks, the NBA is a monster business. They make tons of money. People pay tons of money for tickets. It is, and how could you even compare the two products, the NBA to the WNBA? If the WNBA is losing money every year, you could make the argument that the WNBA players are getting overpaid, not underpaid. Am I wrong in saying this? I'll open up the phone lines. 702-257-5396. Again, the number if you want to be a part of the conversation. Now's the time to do so. 257-5396. These WNBA players are crying that they're not making enough money. Your league is losing money every year. In what business, for 25 years, if a business has lost money every year, can your employees go on strike and say, I want more money? Does that make any sense to anybody? This gets me so frustrated. If your product was great and people were spending boatloads of money for tickets, then you'd be making more money. Have we ever heard of that in business before? Supply and demand? How could you compare the WNBA to the NBA? And Subert wants to say the reason why the WNBA isn't making all this money and doesn't have this rating is because players are gay? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Let me be very clear on this. As a 40-year-old man, I've been watching sports my whole life. Trust me, when people are watching sports on TV, the last thing they're thinking about, oh my God, is LeBron James gay? Oh my God, that John Amici, I can't believe he came out as gay. No, nobody cares because they're watching the sport. And they're watching the sport and they want to watch a good game, a high-quality game. Basketball, football, baseball, hockey. You think back in the day when people were watching the NHL, they were wondering if Mario Lemieux was gay? Let me tell you something. There's people out there that still think that Aaron Rodgers is gay, but those Packers games get pretty high ratings, and nobody cares what the color of their skin is.